The Amish, the Mennonites, often mentioned together like two sides of the same coin. Both value simplicity, faith, and community. Both stand apart from the modern world. But beneath the surface lies a complex relationship, whispered rumors of a secret feud. Are these rumors true? Are the Amish and Mennonites locked in a silent battle of beliefs? To understand, we must journey back in time, tracing their intertwined histories and exploring the nuances that set them apart. This is more than just a story of two communities. It's a glimpse into a life lived on their own terms, a testament to faith and tradition in a rapidly changing world. Let's unravel the truth behind the Amish and Mennonites, separating fact from fiction and discovering the heart of their unique relationship. Our journey begins in the 16th century Europe, a time of great upheaval and transformation. The continent was a patchwork of kingdoms and principalities, each with its own customs and traditions. The Renaissance had sparked a new interest in learning and the arts, but it was the religious landscape that was undergoing the most dramatic changes. The Protestant Reformation is in full swing. Ignited by figures like Martin Luther and John Calvin, their calls for reform resonated with many who were disillusioned with the Catholic Church's practices and perceived corruption. Debates and discussions erupted in town squares and churches, challenging the Catholic Church's authority and questioning long-held beliefs. These debates were not just theological, but also deeply political, as rulers and common folk alike grappled with the implications of these new ideas. From this turmoil emerges a radical group, the Anabaptists. Unlike other reformers, the Anabaptists took their beliefs a step further, advocating for a complete separation from the established church. The Anabaptists believed in adult baptism, hence their name, which means re-baptizers. They argued that baptism should be a conscious decision made by an individual who fully understands its significance, rather than an infant who has no say in the matter. They also advocated for separation of church and state, pacifism, and a simple life guided by the Bible. Their vision was of a community where faith was lived out in every aspect of daily life, from farming to family relationships. The Bible was central to their beliefs, and they spent much time studying and discussing its teachings. They sought to emulate the early Christian communities described in the New Testament, living in harmony and sharing their resources. This defiance attracted persecution from both Catholics and other Protestants. The Anabaptists were seen as a threat to the social order, and many were imprisoned, tortured, or executed for their beliefs. Amidst this persecution, Menno Simons, a former Catholic priest, joined the Anabaptists. His leadership and writings provided much-needed guidance and stability to the movement during these turbulent times. His leadership and writings helped solidify the movement, laying down principles that would guide the Anabaptists for generations to come. Menno's emphasis on peace, community, and simplicity resonated deeply with his followers. This led to the formation of the Mennonites in the 1530s. The Mennonites continued to grow and spread, establishing communities across Europe and eventually in the New World. Years later, in the late 17th century, Jacob Amann, a Swiss Mennonite bishop, called for a stricter adherence to the faith. He believed that the Mennonites had become too lax and sought to return to a more rigorous practice of their beliefs. This led to a split within the Mennonite community. Those who followed Amann's stricter interpretation became known as the Amish, while others continued as Mennonites. The Amish, known for their plain dress and simple living, have maintained their distinct identity to this day. Their commitment to community, humility, and non-violence continues to inspire and challenge those who encounter their way of life. At first glance, the Amish and Mennonites appear remarkably similar. Both groups are often seen in plain dress, with women wearing long dresses and head coverings, and men sporting beards and simple clothing. Their communities are typically rural, and they prioritize faith and community over worldly pursuits. However, beneath these surface similarities lie significant differences that shape their daily lives and interactions with the modern world. Both groups embrace plain dress, with women wearing long dresses and head coverings, and men sporting beards and simple clothing. This attire is not just a fashion choice, but a reflection of their values, emphasizing modesty, humility, and a clear distinction from the outside world. The simplicity in their clothing is a visual representation of their commitment to a life of faith and community. Both prioritize community and faith over worldly pursuits. Their lives are centered around their churches, which serve as the heart of their communities. Regular gatherings for worship, communal meals, and mutual aid are integral parts of their social fabric. These practices foster a strong sense of belonging and mutual support, reinforcing their collective identity and shared values. However, look closer and distinctions emerge. While both groups share a common Anabaptist heritage, their interpretations of how to live out their faith in the modern world differ significantly. These differences are most evident in their attitudes towards technology and modern conveniences. The Amish, known for their stricter interpretation of the separation from the world principle, generally abstain from using electricity, cars, or telephones. Their rejection of these technologies is rooted in a desire to maintain a simple, self-sufficient lifestyle that minimizes distractions and temptations from the outside world. This commitment to simplicity is evident in their daily routines, from farming with horse-drawn equipment to traveling in horse-drawn buggies. Their lives revolve around farming, traditional crafts, and close-knit communities. The Amish are skilled artisans, known for their quilting, woodworking, and other handcrafts. These activities are not only practical but also serve as a means of preserving their cultural heritage and passing down skills through generations. Community gatherings, whether for work or worship, are central to their way of life, reinforcing their bonds and shared values. Mennonites, on the other hand, exhibit a wider spectrum of practices. While some Mennonite groups, like the Old Order Mennonites, live similarly to the Amish, others are more integrated into mainstream society. This diversity within the Mennonite community reflects a broader range of interpretations of their faith and how it should be lived out in the modern world. While some groups, like the Old Order Mennonites, share the Amish's restrictive lifestyle, others embrace technology, drive cars, and participate in mainstream society to varying degrees. This flexibility allows Mennonites to adapt to changing circumstances while still maintaining their core values. For example, many Mennonites use modern farming equipment, run businesses, and engage in professions that require higher education and technological proficiency. These differences, though seemingly subtle, reflect deeply held beliefs about the role of technology, engagement with the outside world, and the interpretation of their shared Anabaptist heritage. The Amish and Mennonites, while sharing a common origin, have charted distinct paths in their quest to live out their faith. Understanding these nuances provides a richer appreciation of their unique ways of life and the values that guide them. The rumor mill often whispers of a deep-seated feud between the Amish and Mennonites. This narrative has been perpetuated over the years, painting a picture of two communities at odds with each other. But how much of this is true, and how much is mere speculation? This stems partly from their historical split, with Ammon's stricter interpretations causing friction within the Anabaptist community. The split, which occurred in the late 17th century, was not just a simple disagreement, but a significant divergence in beliefs and practices. Ammon's followers, who would become the Amish, emphasized a more rigorous adherence to their interpretation of Scripture, while the Mennonites adopted a more lenient approach. Shunning, a practice of social avoidance used to maintain church discipline, further fueled this perception. This practice, known as Meidung in German, was a way for the Amish to enforce their community standards and ensure conformity. Those who were shunned were often cut off from their families and friends, creating a sense of isolation and division. In the past, Amish communities often shunned excommunicated members, even if they joined Mennonite churches. This strict approach to discipline was seen as necessary to maintain the purity of the Amish faith, but it also led to misunderstandings and resentment between the two groups. This practice, while less common today, contributed to the image of a rift between the groups. Over time, however, both communities have evolved and the practice of shunning has become less prevalent. Today, there is a greater emphasis on reconciliation and understanding rather than division and exclusion. However, labeling their relationship as a feud is a gross oversimplification. While there have been tensions and disagreements, these have often been exaggerated or misunderstood by outsiders. The reality is far more nuanced and complex. While historical tensions and theological differences exist, they are not driven by animosity or hatred. Instead, these differences are rooted in deeply held beliefs and traditions that both groups cherish. The Amish and Mennonites have more in common than what divides them, including a commitment to living a life of faith, simplicity, and community. Instead, these differences reflect varying interpretations of their shared faith and the best way to live a life pleasing to God. Both groups strive to follow the teachings of Jesus and to live in a way that honors their religious convictions. Their disagreements are often about the details of how to best achieve these goals rather than fundamental differences in belief. The Amish and Mennonites, despite their differences, share a common ancestry and a deep respect for their respective traditions. They both trace their roots back to the Anabaptist movement of the 16th century, and they both value community, family, and faith. In many ways, they are more alike than different, and their relationship is one of mutual respect and understanding rather than conflict.